couple of days ago, I made a post based saying, are there any interview questions people have that you want me to sort of film some like exemplar answers for? And yeah, a bunch of you replied with some comments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a timer. I have 20 minutes until I need to go and eat a roast chicken. So I'm going to set the 20-minute timer. When it goes off, I'm going to end the video as soon as possible, even if I'm not actually going to do that. I'll just finish the point I'm on. But yeah, I'll basically do roughly 20 minutes today, see how many we get through. I have no idea how many we'll get through. And if you guys find this video valuable, then leave a comment down below and I'll do a part 2 if I get enough comments. If this video is a whole load of rubbish and you want to unsubscribe, leave some hate comments down below. Nice one. Cool. So let's get this thing started. 20-minute timer starting now. Okay, tell me about a time when you worked as a team. So tell me about a time. When it's a tell me about a time question, that is a STAR question. STAR is situation, task, action, result. So that's how you want to structure your answer. Okay, so situation, basically the key thing. Okay, let me just get to the key thing of the STAR. The key thing is the action. That's the biggest mistake people make on STAR questions. They spend ages going through situation and task. Like when I've done mock interviews with people, like your answers maybe 2 minutes, 2 minutes and a half. That's like the average length of an answer. They spend like 1 minute and 1 minute and a half talking about the situation task and just like trying to set up the situation, but it takes so long. Like, I don't care. The situation and task isn't adding anything to your answer. It's just needed for practicality purposes so that we know what's going on. You want to crush down your situation and task to as soon as possible, to as short as possible. So situation task is something like, so the time when I worked as a team was when I was on my Gold DV expedition back in June, and it was actually the last day of our expedition when we set off for the final day, and we ended up getting lost in the fog. Literally that. If you can make your situation task as concise as that, everyone is happy, everyone's understood the context, but we're not sitting here all dying of old age while you explain the situation. Now you go into actions, okay? And the actions is the key part, because this is like the things you did. This is what you did that shows that you're a good team member. And the key thing, especially with this question, worked as a team, is like doing those actions, doing 3 to 5 actions. Okay, because a lot of people, like I literally did a mock interview of someone else. We did like an Amazon-based mock interview. Maybe I'll release a recording of it at some point with this one student. And when I asked him this question, his response was, yes, for the action section was, I collaborated with the people, with the other members of my group. Like I collaborated. So STAR, situation, task, action, result. People go to action and their one action is I collaborated. That's like saying, okay, tell me about the time when you worked as a team. Yeah, my action was I worked as a team. Like it's saying nothing. Okay, you need to come up with 3 to 5 distinct actions that actually, like, you did things. Not just I collaborated, I worked as a team. 3 to 5 distinct actions. On top of that, it needs to be I, not we, it needs to be I. A lot of people say, we did this, we allocated the roles, we decided who was going to do this, we did frequent checkups, we checked what the customer was looking for, we did this, we spent time doing this, we prepared. It's not we. They're not they're not trying to employ the collective we, the group of 6 of you who are in this task. They're employing you, or I. Like, it gets a bit complicated when you explain it like this, but I. All your actions that start with I. Then you want a result, just to show that it worked, and preferably as well, bonus tip for you, if you're going to Amazon and other sort of big tech companies, they really care about data. So if your result can include metrics, that's really good. Okay, so not just we, I don't know, improved our sales, we improved our sales by 18%. Or whatever. Okay, so let me go through a mock answer. We'll just see what happens. All these questions I'm going to go through today, I don't really do answers that much. Like I obviously do it when I'm on coaching calls with people, when I'm filming videos and I need to. Maybe I'll be a bit rusty. Maybe I'll be amazing at it. We'll see what happens. Okay, so yeah, so a time when I worked as a team, it would have been when I was doing Gold Duke of Edinburgh back in June. And it was the final day of our expedition. We'd set off to go in the morning. It was very foggy. The fog had rolled in. And the person who was actually navigating us, they turned around about 30 minutes into the journey. They said, guys, we're lost. I've no idea what we did I have no idea where we are on the map. So it's at this point where the situation sort of escalated from here. Some of the girls in our group started crying, started getting worried that we were going to get lost on the mountain. The guy didn't know where we were. We only had a certain amount of supplies. And the first thing I did was I maintained calm. Okay, I made sure to reassure the girls in our group, yep, this is going to be okay. And I basically sort of took charge of the situation because everyone was getting sort of a bit panicked, okay? And the next thing, once I sort of reassured everyone that I was going to be fine, was I made sure to make sure we follow the protocol. That's important in situations like this, even where things are going wrong, rather than sort of doing random things, follow the protocol that's in place there. Now, what I did was I sort of assigned roles for other people. So I basically knew some other people's strengths. I knew this person had good sort of safety strengths. I knew this person was good at dealing with the food. I knew this person was good at dealing with the temp. So I allocated those roles to different people so that we could collaborate. We could split up the task between the team, but also sticking to our strengths, okay? Once we'd done that and we'd sort of allocated these roles, we were following through the protocol of things we needed to do, like contact the teachers, do this, and that sort of thing. I then suggested a course of action where we head north until we did the path. Basically, I'd looked at the map and I knew we were somewhere south of the path. Not exactly sure where, but somewhere south. So I suggested, let's just go directly due north until we meet the path, because then we're bound to meet it at some point. After suggesting that course of action, I didn't just go along with it. I asked everyone what they thought. Do you guys think that's a good plan? Do you guys have any thoughts? Because maybe I'd looked over something, maybe I'd missed something. So I asked them for their opinion to see what they were thinking. In particular, there was this one member of the group who seemed like they wanted to say something, but he didn't quite say it. So I just asked him for his opinion, and just included him in the discussion just to see his opinion. And his question was, how do you know specifically that we are definitely south? Like, we could be north and we could be going completely the wrong direction. And that's where raising that with me just allowed me the chance to basically explain that and explain that reasoning. And then just with that reassurance of everyone, it made everyone happy there. And then after that, what I did was I suggested again, let's carry around the equipment in a different way. And then we went about it and we ended up going directly due north, and we found the path. So we successfully found the path. We got back on the path and we were able to complete the expedition that day. And because I'd used those collaboration skills, because I'd reassured everyone, it meant we didn't have any like panic attacks or anything like that. Because I'd been asking for people's opinions, it meant I didn't make any rash decisions. And because we'd spread the roles around sort of evenly, it didn't mean I wasn't getting overwhelmed, other groups weren't getting overwhelmed, and it meant we could work effectively as a group. And those are the kind of collaboration skills which I developed during that scenario, which I will use when working in your company. If I have to work with other departments, if I have to work with other team members, those are the collaboration skills that I'd use. So yeah, that was a time when I had to work as a team. Okay, cool. Was that the perfect answer in the world? No, not really, because like those actions, I was making those up as I go along. Okay, that's like when I do these exemplars for you, a lot, especially the telling amount of times, I'm making up the actions as I go along. It's been a long time since I've done my actual actions, but basically that's the kind of structure you'd want to do. Okay, situation, task, the actions. The actions were all I didn't just mention I collaborated. I said I did this. I specifically asked people for their opinion. I specifically included this. I specifically shared out responsibilities. I'm filming like 3 to 5 actions that I did. I had a result of what worked out in the end. I couldn't have done a metric there really, because it was just sort of we completed the expedition. And there was a sneaky thing at the end there, which I sort of call a relate section, which is where I'm relating what I learned in that scenario to how it's going to be useful in the job role. What I'm saying is, in this scenario, I learned collaboration skills, which I will use in your company when working with people from other departments and within my own department to help me complete projects on time as a team or something, right? You can obviously go back and listen to how I phrase that, but it's like a sort of relate section. I'm basically saying I learned collaboration skills, this is going to be useful, and it's explicitly saying you're a good team worker. And then finally, I ended up with a concluding sentence, okay? So that's a time when I worked as a team. I'm going to film a video about this because, again, I've done a couple of mock interviews in the past week or so. No one is doing these concluding sentences. They're sort of just ending in the middle of an answer. So I think I'm not going to cover it in detail today because I just want to get through some more questions. But that's a key thing there, is essentially have a think about how you can end it. Okay, don't just end it in the middle, end it with a concluding sentence. So that's when I worked as a team. So that's the time when I came up with a creative solution. Okay, so that's why I want to work for this company. Okay, so that's the time when I had to work on a long time project. It's basically like saying the question, just putting a so at the start. I'm going to film a full video on it because it's so important, but that's just another thing you think about. Just have it that concluding sentence to make it end really professionally. Okay, I'm going to skip this question for now because it's quite similar. It's just to tell me about a time. Same sort of principles that I've done there before. My creative solution one was when I was doing like a sort of a linguistics Olympiad. It's similar to like the maths Olympiad, and I just came up with a creative solution of solving the problem. It's the same sort of aspects, just explain the situation and task briefly, go through a bunch of actions, make sure you're using I, have a result, do a little sneaky relate section as well. This taught me creativity and problem solving skills, which I'll use whenever I need to come up with creative solutions or face any problems whilst being a software engineer in your company. And that's the time when I came up with a creative solution. Nice little concluding sentence at the end. There we go. So if you're a superhero, which one would you be? Okay, for this one, you got to say something completely like out of pocket, like out like Patrick Bateman or something. 40 murders over. No, I'm joking. Don't actually do that. Okay, I'm just looking at this other question as well. A recruiter shared during a final interview, if you're a shoe, what shoe? Oh God. Okay, right. So if this is like a cliche thing, right? That in a job interview you can get asked stupid questions like, if you're a superhero, which one would you be? If you're like that one's superhero one, I can kind of, still not really, but maybe understand it. That one's the dumbest question I've actually ever seen in my life. Like, I don't even know what I'd say with that. Like, all these people who have like 100 shoes and stuff, right? Like, there's a guy I know who has like Steve McQueen. Is that what they're like? Steve McQueen shoes. I don't know. He told me they were like 400 pounds or something. I'm like, chill out. Okay, everyone has all these different pairs of shoes. I have like my trainers, which like the sole is falling off, and I've had the same trainers. Like I just buy this every time I basically have these shoes until the sole falls off. Then I'll go to Sports Direct and buy the exact same pair and just use like, oh, mate, I wouldn't know what to say. Anyway, back to my point. Basically, it's a cliche that in interviews they can ask you stupid questions that are nothing to do with anything. Generally, I don't find they do this with degree apprenticeships. Okay, and like what is interesting to me, and this sort of confirms my point, is this comment from whoopsieadaisy.com was a recruiter shared how during her final interview with the director, she was asked that. Yeah, so she's like a recruiter, so she's like in a senior professional, non-apprentice, non-18-year-old coming out of a year 13 thing to go to a degree apprenticeship role. She wasn't a degree apprentice, that's my point. That's the kind of questions, times when you're going to get asked these questions. In general, now, am I saying there's not a single degree apprenticeship where you're going to get asked a stupid question? No, absolutely not. There will be some degree apprenticeship out there. They want to be that guy who asks a superior question. But in general, for degree apprenticeships, they're pretty sensible. You guys are 18, you're in year 13, or a gap year, or maybe your first year of university. They're going to ask you standard questions, which I've covered in other videos. For example, list of interview questions. I've shared this at some point in another video, but if not, you can sort of screenshot this now. They're going to be pretty standard questions. Why did you do this? Why did you do this? Tell me about time. What would you do if? They're going to be standard questions. They're not going to do ones like this. The only time when I've actually seen this happen was there was a guy who emailed me from like Australia. He was trying to get into a graduate scheme in Australia, and I helped him out with his interviews. And this was one of the questions they actually asked him in a video interview: is if you're a superhero, which one would you be? I actually helped him get the job. He ended up getting the job from like some random Australian company, which is like, okay, fair enough. But that's the only time when I've heard that. So I think in general, these two questions, you're not going to get it at a degree apprentice level. If you did get that, oh God, if you're a superhero, which one would you be? Like, if I was going for a job like now, for me, the company just loses credibility, and I probably wouldn't even want to work for them because they're just asking some stupid things like that. Like at that point, I'd just be like, I don't even care because you guys are just stupid. But it's like, I get it. Like, you guys want the degree apprenticeship you want, so you're not just gonna like walk out the interview. Fair enough. So you would actually answer it properly. So I'd probably. You have to, it's cringe. Honestly, these questions are so stupid. It's just if you have to answer it, it's gonna be so cringe. But you just have to do it. It's like, yeah, my favorite superhero is Iron Man because he really cares about his friends. like what are you gonna say? Oh, he cares about the Avengers. He flipping I am Iron Man and like kills himself for his friends, and he's so collaborative and inclusive. Like I don't know. You'd have to just honestly, these questions don't even matter. Just say something like, "Yeah, my favorite one's Captain America because he's really hard working. He's really resilient. I myself try and be resilient myself. I try and work hard. For example, I recently did my grade 8 trumpet. I didn't just want to get a pass. I didn't just want to get a merit. I was working really hard to get that distinction. I was doing 3 hours of practice per day on top of schoolwork, on top of school assignments, on top of going and doing my swimming training 5 times a week. So I really work hard. And that's the thing I resonate there with Captain America is he works really hard. Not like the other superheroes like Thor, who's obviously a god, Hulk, who's got a bit of gamma radiation. Captain America doesn't actually. I'm actually thinking about this time. Captain America, he literally has a super soldier serum. What am I talking about? How I do this? Yeah, but Captain America, before he got the super soldier serum, he was really hard working. That's why they chose him in the first place because he had a pure soul. Okay, he wasn't just hard working. He also he had integrity. It's stupid, man. It's honestly stupid. I'm waffling right now, but that's the kind of thing you would say. Okay. It's like you would just talk about this is a superhero. He has these transferable skills like communication, teamwork, collaboration. I think it'd be difficult to do collaboration and teamwork because oh yeah, he collaborates with the Avengers. Shut up, bro. You'd probably say like hardworking, dedicated, resilient, like Captain America, and I try and do that and give an example. So you just have to. I mean, to be fair, you have to do it for a lot of your interviews. You just sort of have to not get cringed out by yourself because the whole thing is a bit cringe, to be honest. But that's what I do. I just basically choose a superhero, choose a specific skill or a specific trait, and explain how you have that as well. Okay, if I was a shoe, like, yeah, I'm going to answer this like unironically, but this is the dumbest question I've ever seen. It's like, if I had to answer this all seriousness, I think probably the shoe that represents me would be a walking boot. Okay, because walking boots need to be really sturdy. For example, when I've gone into my Gold DV, I went to the Lake District. You obviously have to use those walking boots so you don't twist your ankle so that when you're on the hard rocks, when you're on the slippery surface, it gives you that traction. It gives you that support for your ankle. And I think the key thing from that is sturdiness. If you were going over the Lake District in flip flops, in your socks and sandals, then it wouldn't give you that sturdiness. It wouldn't give you that traction. I think that's sort of a metaphor that I think represents my attitude to life, which is to be resilient, which is to go through tough situations. For example, just a couple of months ago, I was revising for all my exams. We had mock examinations. I also had my trumpet exam, and I was having to practice 3 hours a week for that. I also had swimming galas coming up, and I was having to train 5 times a week for that. So I had a lot of stuff going on, and I really had to hone those time management skills and had to be dedicated. And I had to be resilient through those difficult times. In the end, I ended up getting the grade A. I ended up getting the top grades I wanted. I ended up getting these gold medals I wanted. And that's why I think that shoe would be me, really. Just because when I look at that hiking shoe, I see dedication, I see resilience, I see mental toughness, and I think that's the same for me. That was such a dumb answer, but that's what you'd say. You basically just say a thing like that. Oh, it has this skill, which it doesn't. Like hiking boot has resilience. Yeah, good one. And then you just give examples. Like a lot of interview answers, things like what are your. This is like at the base. When you look at face value, this is a stupid question, but when you dive a bit deeper, all this is saying is, what are your strengths? Like that's all this question is, but they're just framing it as a superhero thing. Right? They're like, what are the strengths of a superhero that you also have? What are the strengths of a shoe that you also have? That's the kind of thing it's asking at like when you go in deeper. Okay, what are the strengths of a superhero you have? Therefore, what are your strengths? So you just answer exactly how you'd answer. What are your strengths? What are why are you good fit for this role? So just choose one: dedication, resilience, communication, teamwork. For both those, I use dedication and resilience because I think it's easier to do it like that. Like you don't explain how a shoe is like teamwork, are you? Right? So hopefully that guide gives you some guidance there. But honestly, I don't think you're going to have to worry about those in your degree apprenticeship ones because I think at this level anyway, they're fairly sensible. I think companies start to lose the plot a bit when you go up to higher roles. For example, this prestigious role right there. Describe a situation where you demonstrate one of our core values like customer love, unity, integrity, growth, and impact. Give me 1 second. Okay, right, I'm back. I've had my roast chicken. I've dropped two people off at a New Year's party. So let's get back to work. So where were we? Describe a time where you demonstrate one of core values like customer love, unity, integrity, growth, impact. Yes, I'm guessing this person here is interested in JLR. So JLR have 5 values: customer love, unity, integrity, growth, impact. This is a good exercise that I actually recommend when you're going and applying to a company. Look at their values and then think of an example for each of their values. Okay, in terms of JLR, it would be when's the time you've done customer love? When's the time you've done unity? And that's just quite similar to when have you worked as a team? When have you shown integrity? When have you, I don't know, how do you phrase that? When have you showed an interest in growth, or when have you learned a new skill, or when have you invested in your own development or something, or when have you made an impact, when have you worked hard on something? It's a good activity in general for each of the companies you're applying to. When they have a bunch of values, go and think of an example for each one, because it means if they ask a question like this, which is where you demonstrated one of these values, you can do this exact thing. So for this one, it's just STAR. Okay, it's a bit different to the usual STAR questions, which are tell me about a time when you worked as a team, tell me about a time when you solved a problem, tell me about a time when you came up with a creative solution, tell me about a time when you worked hard for a customer. It's just the same as those, just rephrased. Okay, so it's like describe a situation where you demonstrated customer love. Okay, you just do STAR: situation, task, action, result. So let's go with, let's say, integrity. Okay, describe a situation where you demonstrated one of core values like integrity. So a time when I demonstrated one of the core values of integrity was in the start of year 13 when I was on a work experience placement on site at a civil engineering project. Now, when we were going on site, we'd been briefed at the very start that we had to wear certain health and safety equipment. This included high vis, this included safety goggles, safety helmet, gloves, safety boots, etc., to make sure we were protected from the many hazards on a construction site, as you'd expect. And there was one time when we were about to go on site, and I noticed that one of my supervising engineers, he was about to walk out of the site office and he was about to go on site, and he wasn't wearing his high vis and he wasn't wearing his helmet. Now, this was a difficult situation because obviously I'm just a work experience placement, I'm a student, I'm just here for 2 weeks. This is obviously a senior engineer who's sort of working at this construction site full time. So it was a bit of a difficult conversation to have, okay, and risk of conflict there because obviously I'm just a placement student, I'm talking to a supervising engineer. But for me, safety is number one priority. Integrity is really important for me. So it was important that I did the right thing and I was honest. So when I saw this supervising engineer about to leave and go on site, not wearing the correct safety equipment, I just mentioned this to him and sort of I mentioned that I reminded him that he needed to have the right safety equipment on, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I just forgot." He went and got his safety equipment on, and then we went out on site like that, and it was a positive outcome. And the sort of the result of that was he got the safety equipment, put his high vis on, put his helmet on, and we went out on site, and we had a successful and safe site inspection, going around and looking at some of the bridges that we needed to go and inspect. And that just sort of taught me not only a safety orientated mindset, but just integrity in general. Okay, that it's important even when it's difficult, even when it's not the easy route. Like this wasn't the easy route because it meant I had to sort of have this difficult conversation with a senior member. It's still the right thing to do. So that's why for me, I take integrity at the forefront of everything I do, and I'll continue to do it at your company. Even if there's a difficult route, even if it's a difficult conversation, even if it risks conflict, I'll put integrity at the forefront of my decision making and raise any issues when I see them. So that was a time when I had to show integrity. And that's how you do it. I got a bit stuck in the middle of my answer there. I'm just trying to work out the wording. But that's basically how you do it. Just situation, task, action, result. The relate thing, which I just told you guys about, I just put that at the end there, like, which is basically like after your result, okay, we had a successful, safe site visit. This taught me integrity. This taught me a safety oriented mindset, which I would go and use, or what's the word I'm looking for? Maintain, or I would have when working at your company. So that's like a bonus thing that doesn't really get mentioned when people talk about STAR, situation, task, action, result. It's that bonus one there, relate. You're sort of relating what you learned in this scenario to how that's going to go and help you in that job. And I gave you an example there, and I finished it with a concluding sentence. So that's the time when I demonstrated integrity. Okay, that's how I'd answer it there. Why this company, e.g. Amazon? Okay, let me get you guys a checklist for this one. This will be easier. Give me 2 seconds. Why do you want to work for this company? These are the kind of things you can do as a checklist for the things you can mention. Okay, an overall point about, okay, it's the biggest tech company in the world. Some little fact, you guys got $33 million, 33 billion, $3 billion, $1 billion of profit in 2023. 30,000 employees across 50 countries, multiple industries such as online shopping, what's it called? Entertainment, smart speakers, whatever, shopping, right? Then go through key products and services. Okay, so it's Amazon, Alexa, Prime Video. Sorry, whenever I oh, okay, thank you for that. Whenever I say Alexa, Alexa just starts talking. I need to remember to mute her when I film this videos. So key products or services: Alexa, Prime Video. If it's like a consumer-based company like that, like Amazon, those are the products or services. If it's more of a like an engineering company potentially, especially, yeah, if it's an engineering company, it could be products and services as well. Could also be projects. Okay, some recent projects that they've been working on, some recent innovations, some recent news. Also mission, purpose, or goal. Okay, so JLR's one used to be, I'm not sure if it is still now, but it used to be, they want to be the world's most luxurious car company. Okay, and like you can say you really align with that mission, you really align with that purpose. You can then go through company values and say how, you don't have to mention all of them, you don't have to talk about all of them because you probably won't have time, but maybe mention how one or two of them align with sort of your interests and you really care about that sort of thing. And finally, just a bonus point at the end, you can throw in something about sustainability or something about diversity. These sort of tick box exercises that can just get you like a bit of goodwill with the interviewers, a bit of an extra mark because sure, it's a nice little tick box thing to say. So those are the kind of points you can do there for why do you want to work for this company. So let me give you a brief example let me just give you 2 examples for this actually. Let me give you one example with AstraZeneca, and I'm just going to use the notes I have for AstraZeneca, which I used when I did my interview with them and I ended up getting the job. I haven't looked at these notes for like 2 years or whatever, but I'll just do it now and see what happens. And then I'll give you an example for Amazon as well. Okay, let's do this. This is going to be, for this example, because I have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm making up as I go along, and I'm looking at my notes. I'm not going to be looking at the webcam. Key thing that I've been noticing on a lot of these mock interviews, a lot of people don't look at the webcam. They're just looking straight down here. They're looking at themselves. Make sure as much as you can when you're doing an online interview or a video interview, you're going to be looking up here at the webcam. It's going to allow you to psychologically connect with the interviewer more. They're just going to like you more if you're making eye contact like this rather than looking down like this. Okay, so for these 2 mock answers, maybe the ones in the rest of this video, because I'm not like fully prepared or anything, because I'm not like doing these interviews, I will be looking at notes and that sort of thing. But when you do it, make sure you're remembering these notes, you're memorizing these notes or whatever, you're memorizing your key points so you don't need to look at your notes. So you can just look into the camera. When I was doing these real ones, I would have basically memorized these points so that I could just look into the camera the whole time. And let me just pull up AstraZeneca's values 1 second. Okay, so why do you want to work for AstraZeneca? The first reason I want to work for AstraZeneca is I really respect your mission and your purpose, which is to push the boundaries of science to deliver life-saving medicines. In particular, when I was doing some research on sort of the specific fields you wanted to look into, I was really excited by some of these. For example, some of the key issues which you put out here is things like stopping cancer, things like stopping asthma. In particular, I suffer with asthma myself, so I was really inspired by your goal and see if I could contribute to this goal. I know that asthma now affects 1 in 4 children who have been born since 2005. So it's a topic that's really topical to me, and if I can work for your company and make an impact on that, then that would be absolutely amazing. No, in particular, when I was digging into the details of your company and exactly what your values and behaviors were, I was really interested to hear about some of these values, some of these behaviors. For example, one of your values is putting patients first. I think this is really important. When I've had my own customer jobs, when I've worked in the garden centre, I've always put the customer first. They're the number one priority. So I like how your company has such a patient-orientated system as well. Also, where it says here about being we are entrepreneurial, from reading about that, this is about taking smart risks, having creative thinking and coming up with new ideas. I myself like to consider myself as an entrepreneurial person and try and come up with new ideas. For example, when we had a young enterprise team at my school last year, I was trying to innovate and come up with new ways of how we could enhance our product to make it better for the customer. So it's those kind of values and behaviors that you have at your company that really make me want to work there, because I believe I align with those values. Another thing I wanted to mention was I was looking at one of your initiatives, which was faster, smarter, leaner and better by 2025. That's one of your initiatives. And one interesting thing about this was you wanted to be digital first. You want to be a digital first pharmaceutical company. I know you're the biggest pharmaceutical company in the UK, by the way, earning 33 billion in the past 2 years. So this digital first really did interest me. Okay, me personally, I really do enjoy anything to do with technology. Okay, so in the past I've done a Python course, I've done an AI course. I've recently done a course by the University of Toronto. It's a 20-hour course which I've done on quantum computing. And I'm really excited to work at a company such as yours, which is so committed to tech initiatives. I saw about how last year you started introducing an AI chatbot into some of the workflows with some of your app development. So that was really interesting for me there. The final reason I'd say is just sustainability as well, because on top of being a pharmaceutical company that's putting patients first, it's science and innovation led, it's committed to the people, you're also committed to the planet as well. So I read about how you have this initiative of Ambition Zero Carbon, which is to do with being net zero by 2038. And this really excites me. Sustainability, I think, is one of the most important things for companies across the board. So if I can contribute to this, if I can help with this, that's something that really interests me. So overall, those are the reasons why I would like to work for AstraZeneca in particular. A lot of that was made up, by the way, just like little disclaimer, don't use those facts I just did. I made most of those up, like 2038 and 1 in 4 people having asthma. I made all that stuff up. Obviously, I didn't make it up in the real interview. I would have learned the actual, like, you guys know, and I'm not, I'm not saying go into your interview and start making, oh yeah, 1 in 4, 2050, 33 billion. I'm just making those up now for the purpose of today. Obviously, go and learn the actual statistics for your real thing, but those are the kind of statistics you can do. So that's why I do it. I basically had sort of 4 broad points there, I think. One of them was about like their work with cancer and asthma. The next one was some stuff to do with their values. The next one was to do with their digital first initiatives, and the next one was to do with sustainability. So that's the kind of thing you can do. Okay, and I've basically picked out, where's my mouse? There it is. Four sort of categories from here. You can do whatever categories you want, and it's just an answer like that. So this kind of question does require a lot of research, because obviously I was using research from here. I was also making things up, which you'd go and actually do the research for. So it is a question you definitely want to plan out an answer for. Okay, so that's an example for AstraZeneca, which I was partly using my notes for. Let me give an example for Amazon. Okay, and again, this is going to be completely making it up again, because I haven't, I don't actually memorize statistics now, because there's no point. I'm not doing the interview, right? So if I do say anything, do not use these statistics. They are completely made up. Okay. Why do you want to work for this company? By the way, we're assuming these are interview questions where I have unlimited time, in which case, like, I don't know, 2 minutes, 2 minutes 30, that's probably what you want to be. No idea how long that last question was. I'm not assuming this is like a 1 minute or 2 minute video interview. I'm just assuming it's sort of unlimited. You're having a conversation with a real person here. So why do you want to work for Amazon? Well, the first reason I want to work for Amazon is because I know it's the biggest tech company in the entire world. It's actually bigger than Google. It's bigger than Microsoft. And I really want to work for a company which is an industry leader. And whatever I do, I try and do it to the best of my ability. For example, I recently won the award in my school for the top year 12 student, and I also won the award this year for being the top math student in year 13. So it's something where I sort of align with that commitment there, that goal of your company of being the biggest tech company in the world. So that's the first thing there. Now, when I was researching about Amazon, I'm aware of how you operate in multiple different industries. So of course, there's the Amazon shopping, which is the most famous, but then there's so many different parts of your company which really interest me. You have the products such as Prime Video, which is in the entertainment market. You have products such as Alexa, which is in the smart speaker market. You have Amazon Web Services, which is in cloud computing, which is a massive field right now. And this sort of broad range of topics really interests me, and the ability to, the opportunity to work on these different products really interests me. Going back to Prime Video for a second, I really like how innovative Prime Video is. When I've been using Prime Video myself, I notice how when you're playing a movie or you're playing a TV show, it automatically generates the cast list and facts about that specific scene as it's playing, and that is that kind of innovative thinking and innovative mindset. How can we make this product better for the customers? That I really enjoy. So when I was connecting with some apprentices, they mentioned they were working in Prime Video on their first year, and the opportunity to work on some of these groundbreaking products would be really interesting to me. Now, next thing about your company was your leadership principles. I know you have 16 leadership principles, such as invent and simplify, I write a lot, learn and be curious, high and develop the best. In particular, I wanted to go in big onto the bias for action one, because I thought the bias for action leadership principle is something that really resonates with me. Whenever I get the opportunity to do something, I try and do it as soon as possible. Okay, I try not to delay, because I think that's where we can get the best results. Okay, so if I see something, if I notice, and this actually happened a few months ago, I noticed there was a gap in my learning. I'd learned about Python, I'd learned about CSS, but I noticed JavaScript, which is a really important language for our computer science A-level. I hadn't done anything on that. So what I did was straight away that same day, the moment I realized that was sort of the third language missing from my repertoire, I enrolled onto a course. Now, that's actually a course I've completed now. It's a 40-hour course, required about 8 hours of study per week, lasting about, can I do the maths? This is awkward for your interview. 5 weeks. That lasted about 5 weeks. And that really was enjoyable to do, and I do like learning that sort of thing. So those leadership principles, I think I really align with them, and they really do interest me there. I also recently read about how you introduced this new policy within your software development team, which is to use ChatGPT and to use AI to check your code. Now, I thought this was really interesting, because I think, yes, there are lots of disadvantages with artificial intelligence. The information isn't always correct. There can be bias. If information is not handled correctly, there can be confidentiality issues. But I learned how basically you implemented a policy where if the policy is followed, you can now use artificial intelligence. And I like how your company is being so innovative. It's staying on the cutting edge of technology. And I think this is really going to help me in my career, because I am so interested in artificial intelligence. And now the final reason I want to work for Amazon is because of sustainability reasons. I personally think sustainability is a huge, important path that companies need to go down. And I personally, in my career, I want to work for a company, for a role where I'm going to be able to have a positive impact on the planet. And I like how your company has a goal of being net zero by 2038. And also coming back to Amazon Web Services, when I was doing research, I know cloud computing is 38% more sustainable than conventional forms of computing. So I want to work for a company like yours that does have these sustainability initiatives, and that really inspires me. So yeah, overall, those are the reasons why I'd like to work for Amazon. Cool. Was it the most perfect answer in the world? Again, not really, because I'm sort of making stuff up as I go along. But hopefully you guys are understanding the broad structure of what I'm doing. I did sort of like an overall one. I then did sort of a products one. And then I think what did I do? Leadership principles. Maybe I did like a recent news thing, and then sustainability. Again, a lot of that was made up, because the point of this is I'm just trying to show you guys a structure. But that's how you do it. Okay? That's how you do it. Okay, next question. How much time you had to work on a long-term project, and what motivated you to complete, and what was the outcome? That's a star question, so it's just same as the points I mentioned here above. You know what, let me just do a full answer to this question, why not? Let me just honestly just do this question as if I'm literally doing it for an interview right now. Okay, so a time when I had to work on a long-term project was from 2023 to about 2025, when I was working on a YouTube channel, which I called the Apprenticeship Insider, where basically I wanted to help people out with getting into degree apprenticeships. It's something that I'd noticed that there were not many people on the internet at all who were helping degree apprenticeships. A lot of schools are focused on just university. And I thought, seeing as I'd got into degree apprenticeship, I thought I had some level of expertise to help people in here. So essentially what I did, my actions were to first of all understand the industry, understand what was going on here, understand people. So that's where I tried to get a lot of information about what people were struggling with, the early people I was talking to. I was giving them feedback forms, I was having conversation with them, trying to understand what exactly is it that you're struggling with degree apprenticeships. Is it finding out about degree apprenticeships? Is it finding vacancies? Is it the actual application process? And I began to understand that it was mainly the application process that people were really struggling for. And by basically doing these conversations, this allowed me to tailor my long-term project in the right direction. That right direction was focused on helping my audience with the application process. So if that's the first thing that I did there in this long-term project, was focusing on getting the right target audience and doing the right content that would actually help them, and understanding the customer, which is so important for any business, understanding the customer so you can meet their needs properly. Now, the next thing on this long-term project was to set out a clear vision of what I wanted to do. Okay, set out a clear long-term strategy. And that was basically, I'm waffling right now, by the way. This yeah, so the next thing I wanted to do on this long-term project was set out a long-term strategy. Didn't want to jump straight in, but I specifically planned out the content that I was going to do over the course of the first 6 months, so that I knew exactly where I wanted to put everything, when I wanted to start certain coaching programs, when I wanted to start certain one-to-one things, so that I could help people in the most effective way possible. For example, there's no point in me at the very start of the application process teaching people things about the end of the application process. Similarly, at the end, there's no point in me teaching things about the start. So that's why having that long-term approach and that long-term thinking allowed me to personalize the content so that it drops at the right time. And then the final thing I did was I looked at all my other commitments. I looked at the other commitments that were in my life and basically made arrangements that I could have more time for this. Okay, because I think I'm literally waffling right now. Sometimes this happens, man. Sometimes you're going to get a bit stuck in your answer and you can't really think of an action. In which case, honestly, just move on. Like, that's what I'd probably do, because I am literally waffling right now. So let's just rewind for a second. So I've just finished that point there about, what was my previous point? My previous point was about, yeah, like, I'm literally making this all up as I go along. That's why I'm not saying anything here. My previous point was about, planning the content in advance. So I'd plan the content in advance to make sure I was teaching things at the right time. And now, what kept me motivated was the fact that I was genuinely helping people. So I just, whenever I was sort of demotivated, didn't want to do anything, I just remind myself of the kind of impact I was having. I'd go and have a look at my goals, what they originally were, and just go along with those. And also speak to the customers, look at the customers, look at the audience, and see how I could help them. And just by bringing myself back to the original goals, the original values of the project I wanted to do, that kept me motivated to do it. The outcome of this was, during the 2024 application process, I managed to help a whole bunch of people get into degree apprenticeships, companies like Amazon, JLR, KPMG, HSBC, Deutsche Bank. Really successful, and I was really happy. Really happy about that. And basically, by doing a lot of this stuff on YouTube, I managed to grow to about 2,000 subscribers already. In the 2025 application process, I've helped people get offers from HSBC, EY, Deloitte, KPMG, and we've got more companies to come, with companies like Amazon and JLR, specifically targeting those after January, going through January, February and March. So that was a positive outcome. And overall, this long-term project taught me many things. It taught me independence. Okay, it taught me ownership, because I was taking ownership of this project, doing it by myself. It taught me communication skills, because I've had to jump on so many calls with people I've never met before. I'm a very confident communicator after going through all this. It's taught me just dedication and resilience, going through hard times, sort of many times where I want to quit every single day, but I just keep going. And it's given me a whole load of experience that can be super transferable to any projects that can be required in the future. So that's the time when I had to work on a long-term project. Was it the best answer in the world? No, because I'm like completely waffling off the top of my head, right? But that's like how I would do that. And yeah, the point was in the middle when I gave it that first go. And I made this mistake here, and this is a mistake some of you guys make as well. So it's actually a good learning lesson. Sometimes you want to say a certain number of things. Okay, or like, for example, here, I wanted to say 3 actions, okay, because remember this thing I'd said earlier for Abdullah here, which was 3 to 5 actions. I'd already said 2 actions, and I wanted to say a third one, but I was really struggling to come up with that third one, to say that third one. So I should have just moved on. But instead, I had to break character and say, guys, I'm stuck, which obviously you were not going to do in your real interview. You just want to move on. You want to cut your losses. So if I definitely could have improved that answer. If I was in a real interview and I'd done those 2 actions, I really wanted to do a third one. I was trying to basically say a third one, which was I don't even know what I was trying to say for the third one. That's the thing. Just move on. I think this is a good lesson. When you have things to say, but you can't quite work it out, rather than worrying about it and trying to work it out, and you end up basically messing up like I did there, just move on. So sort of when I did that the second time through and I did the 2 actions and I just moved straight on, that's how you want to do it. Okay, it's a bit of a learning lesson there. Cool. Like, I can see everyone unsubscribing from this YouTube channel right now. This guy's no good at interviews. This guy's got no idea what he's talking about. I have another question that isn't interview based. Oh, hold on. I have another question that isn't interview based, but assessment center. I believe there are 3 types of questions. One of them is a scenario where I work as a group. Can you expand on the others and give us examples on what to fix? Okay, that is a very interesting way of phrasing that question. 3 types of questions. I'm guessing you mean 3 parts of the assessment. I don't know what you mean by 3 types of questions. I'm guessing you mean 3 parts of the assessment center. Like there's an interview, case study, presentation, group exercise. No, I don't know. I'll be honest, I have no idea what you're talking about. Great question. I appreciate you leaving a comment, but I have no idea what you're on about. I'm presuming you mean like a group exercise. Yeah, if you want to know about a group exercise and what to expect, like I literally have no idea what you're talking about. If it is about the group exercise, come on to my channel to see that and watch. Where is it? Watch this video. Group exercise, everything you need to know. If your question is something different, leave another comment on this video because I have no idea what you're talking about. But yeah, group exercise video there. So we have a whole bunch of more questions on this one. But what I'll do is, you know what? I was gonna leave it for a different video, but you know what? Who cares? Let's just do it. Okay. What is your biggest weakness? Cool. Okay, so I'd say that my biggest weakness would be getting obsessed with the details and overly thinking about the details. So, for example, when I was doing geography in year 10, the teacher would always give us a bunch of statistics, a bunch of facts on the slide just to give us some background information. But I'd be overly obsessed with the details. I'd write down every single fact and every single statistic. And when I do the revision, I try and remember every single statistic and every single fact, which I'd actually be able to do. And I'd remember every single one. And then when we got into the year 10 mocks, I'd start the paper and I'd get to the first question, question 1, question 2, question 3. And I'd be putting down so much detail for even like a simple 4-mark question, 6-mark question. I'd be putting in loads and loads of details with every single fact and statistic I could mention, just because I wanted to put it down on the paper, just because I wanted to impress the examiner. But what would happen is I would then run out of time for the rest of the exam. I wouldn't get to the final question. I wouldn't have time to finish the final couple of questions because I spent so much time on the first questions, which are just 4 marks or 6 marks, because I'd been so overly obsessed with those details. This is actually something I worked on through the end of year 10 and the start of year 11, which was just to improve those time management skills and have less of a focus on those details. So actually, when it came down to our year 11 mock, it actually went much better. It went much, much better because basically I discipline myself to those first couple of questions, 4 marks, 6 marks, to only doing the detail necessary. Okay, not doing too much detail, but just doing the 4 marks that was needed, then moving on. Okay, going to the next question. Then what that meant was the result of that was because I'd managed my time and I'd just done what was needed, I hadn't gone overly into the detail. It meant that I finished the exam. I managed to finish all the questions, and I actually ended up getting a grade 9. So in my previous exams, I'd been sort of bordering on a grade 8, grade 7 because I hadn't been finishing all the questions. But now I managed to get into a grade 9. My actual mark was increased by about 23% on between these 2 different exams here. So that's definitely the weakness I would say I have, which is going over in details, and it can definitely waste a lot of time, and it's not always necessary. But I think because I've been working on it, I've definitely improved my time management, I've improved my discipline in that area. It's something that I'm definitely improving, and I think it's not going to be a problem working at this company. And it's something I'm working on. So that's what I'd say is my biggest weakness, and how I'm working to improve it. That's what I'd say, something like that. Basically, you don't want to say what's your biggest weakness. I think I had a mock interview with someone the other day for Amazon, and they said their biggest weakness was like leadership. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Can we get... Did you say your biggest weakness for Amazon was leadership? Even though Amazon like you to use your leadership principles every day. You don't want to say that, okay? So for this sort of question, what's your biggest weakness? Don't say anything like major, like, oh, I'm bad at leadership, I'm bad at communication, like I'm socially awkward, I can't talk to people, or like I literally can't solve problems, like I'm brain dead, I have brain rot. You're not going to say that, right? Say something that's kind of like minor, kind of not the end of the world, not that deep. Do I have some examples? Yeah, I do. For example, perfectionism, focused on the details too much. That was it for me with geography. Okay, spending too much time connecting with people, struggling with work-life balance, saying yes to everything you can't say no, struggling to ask for help. Those sort of ones which are kind of minor, they're not the end of the world. Those are the kind of ones which are good to say as your weakness. And that's how you do it. And basically you say, okay, this is my weakness, but it's something I'm working on, it's something I'm improving, and I'm getting better at. Okay, maybe now I'm thinking about it, that in my answer I said, this is not a problem, so it won't be a problem at your business. You probably wouldn't explicitly say that, 'cause it's a bit too bait, it's a bit too obvious. But it's just something like, but I've been working on this recently, and actually my recent geography exam, because I'd allocated my time correctly, I hadn't gone over it, analysing it into too much detail, I managed to improve my grade by about 23%. I ended up getting a grade 9 instead. So yeah, that's what I'd say is my weakness, and that's how I'm working to improve it. You'd probably just leave it at that. I think now that I think about it in hindsight, saying this won't be a problem at your business, it's just too bait, it sounds too dodgy. So yeah, I think you'd be a bit more subtle with it like that. Hope that helps. Here's a question I once had: would you say you're ambitious? How did you prove it? I'm guessing they didn't say that because that question doesn't make sense. Would you say you're ambitious? How did you prove it? I'm guessing they said how would you prove it? I mean, if they ask that question, that literally does not make any sense. But would you say you're ambitious? Sure, let me just give this a go. Yeah, so I definitely say I'm ambitious. I like to set myself big goals and I like to accomplish them. So how I'd sort of prove this to you right now would be just to talk about my A levels, for example. So for my A levels, just take Latin for example. Latin was one of my A levels, and when I'd been doing a lot of sort of assignments and mocks, I'd sort of been sitting around sort of the A side of things, getting a grade A and everything. And I was struggling to sort of make that A star when I was doing a lot of these assignments because, for example, we'd be translating authentic sort of Roman texts in Latin, and what I wanted to do was I wanted to challenge myself, okay? Because I could have just gone to the end A level final exams and just gone A fine, but I wanted to challenge myself and be like, you know what? Let's just go for it and get this A star. So basically, what I did was when I was leading up to the revision for my A levels, I allocated all my time. I did an exam timetable. I planned out all the different passages that I wanted to translate. I worked really hard on this Latin to see how I could improve to an A star. And in the end, I ended up getting an A star. So it was a challenging goal that was definitely difficult. I consider not even like following through with this, but I set the goal, I followed through with it, and I ended up getting an A star. So that's where I was ambitious with one sort of goal. And just another example is sort of a project that I've been working on, which is having a YouTube channel where I wanted to help a whole bunch of people get into degree apprenticeships. That was sort of the challenge I gave myself from the start. I'd never actually done a YouTube channel before. I hadn't really helped people with degree apprenticeships before. And I just set myself the challenge. Can I help some people get degree apprenticeships? Very difficult target, very difficult goal. Hadn't done anything on YouTube before. There was already people big on TikTok, big on Instagram, big on all these other platforms. And I basically had to come in and compete with that. So it was a big goal, but in the end, it's been successful because I managed to help people get offers from Amazon, HSBC, JLR, KPMG, EY, Deloitte. People say that I've managed to help them, and I've helped people. So yeah, that I would say I'm ambitious, and those are just two examples for you there of when I've set ambitious, difficult goals, and I've managed to meet them there. So yeah, that's why I'd say I'm ambitious. Hope that answers your question. That's how I'd answer it probably. Yeah, basically. Like, you say yes, because like ambitious is probably a good trait or quality to have as a person. So you're not going to say no. So say yes. But then how did you prove it? I mean, yeah, again, like I said, it doesn't make sense. I'm more like, how do you prove it or something? But just give us examples. Like, it's pretty simple. A lot of these questions same. What are your strengths? Mention a strength, communication, give an example. This is like a question. What are your strengths? But instead of like saying what are your strengths and you say ambitious, it's giving you ambitious for you. So it's just the same as you. Just say an example and say yeah. Okay, and even at the end, you could add in that sort of like relate thing, which is, yeah, so I definitely think I'm ambitious. And this ambition is going to be really useful for your workplace because it means I'm going to be able to meet these goals. I'm going to be able to work hard. If there's an ambitious goal, difficult goal, I'll be able to work hard and meet it just like I've done with these ones here. So that's why I'd say I'm ambitious. Cool. Nice one. Meza Ozil putting the pressure on me now. Definitely unsubscribing now after I've messed up one or two of those questions. Tell us time when you had to learn a new skill. Again, this is pretty much just a star question. I don't know if you guys want me, like, you want me to explain structure or you want me to specifically answer the question. But you just do star, right? And you talk about what was the situation, and you talk about the actions you took to like learn the new skill. You know, I'll just do it. I was gonna just say the structure and move on, but sure, let's just give an example for this. So a time. Let me just think of an example I could use for this. Okay, I'm going to make this one completely up off the top of my head. Okay, so the time when I had to learn a new skill was in year 12 when I was sort of looking at where I was in terms of software engineering, my technology knowledge. I hadn't actually done A-level computer science, and I knew I wanted to apply for a degree apprenticeship in digital and technology solutions. So I was having a look at my sort of portfolio and my skills, and I noticed there was a big gap there in terms of coding languages. I'd done a bit of coding in the past on things like Scratch, but nothing too serious. This is where I took it upon myself. I have a bit of a growth mindset, and I like learning new things. So I took it upon it myself to complete a Python course. So the steps I took to successfully master this skill of Python was I did this Python course, and I made sure to complete the module, and I made sure to make written notes as I was going through. I think for me, this is something that's very powerful. Rather than just sitting there and passively watching the content, I was actively making notes, written notes, to sort of solidify the cement. That's the word I'm looking for, to cement the learning that I'm doing. Now, after each module, I wouldn't just move straight on to the next module. I'd spend a bit of time just sort of reflecting on my notes, reading through the notes again, and I'd also test myself on some of those notes. I get a family member to test me on those notes, and this would solidify my learning for each of these modules. And I went through this whole course, and I completed the final exam, and I made sure to complete this final exam without any notes. Okay, I could have used my notes, I could have gone back to the modules and sort of cheated, I guess, with that exam. But I thought it was important to sort of just do this exam completely blind, because it was a good way of testing my knowledge. It tested my knowledge. There are a few topics which I needed a bit of improvement in, because I struggled with. It meant I was then able to go and actually improve those topics, because rather than sort of cheating and using my notes, I'd been able to notice that those were a bit of improvement for me. So now I'd done that course, I went over in more revision those aspects which I'd struggled with. I then went and wanted to apply this knowledge. Before I would describe myself as mastering Python or anything like that, I wanted to go through a few projects. So I thought it's one thing knowing Python theoretically, it's another thing being able to go and do projects. So what I did was I made some projects like a turtle moving around the screen, like a random number generator. And I sent them to one of my friends who actually was doing A-level computer science for a bit of feedback. Now, I'm really open to feedback. I'm very grateful for feedback. Like, whenever I get the opportunity to get constructive criticism, I really do appreciate it. So sending those projects over to him, I got a bit more feedback on, yes, I'd used some of the principles correctly. The theory had been correct because of that course, but in practice, when implementing it within the program, I could have built the structures a bit more efficiently, and that was really great learning for me there. So in the end, after doing that, I then felt confident doing Python, and this was where I'm now able to do sort of much more significant projects, and I believe I'm much better at this than I was before. So that's the sort of outcome there. And the final thing I've been able to do is I've recently made like a whole football game on Python, which is sort of like a football manager simulator on Python. So yeah, those are the steps I took, making sure I was doing thoroughly going through the modules rather than just skipping over everything, testing myself, and also getting constructive criticisms from other people. Those steps helped me master that skill, and the outcome was I've been able to make my own football manager game there. So basically, this sort of willingness to learn, this drive to learn for myself is something that's going to be really useful for this degree apprenticeship. I know I'm going to be learning new things, new practical things in the 80% of the time I'm going to be in the workplace, but also going to be learning modules and new techniques for my degree, which is going to be 20% of the time. It's going to be a BSc in Digital and Technology Solutions from the University of Exeter. So this willingness to learn will come in really useful and help me exceed in this degree apprenticeship. So that's the time when I had to learn a new skill. There we go. And I had that relate section again at the end. Relate is relating how this scenario taught you stuff that's going to be useful for the workplace. This taught me willingness to learn. This taught me how to learn new things, which is going to be useful for your degree apprenticeship. I mentioned 80-20, which is a bit of extra research for you there. I mentioned BSc Digital Technology Solutions from the University of Exeter, which basically explained like what the qualification is. That's good to make sure you understand what the qualification is, and I had that nice concluding sentence. So that's the time when I learned a new skill. All right, this one we've done. This one we've done. Final one. You see your best friend cheating on an exam, what do you do? Okay, so if I saw my best friend cheating an exam, what I would do is, okay, this is a crazy one. This is actually crazy. If anyone's been asked this in their interview, they'd like shout out if you answered this well, because that's a bit deep to have on your interview. Okay. Okay. So if I saw my best friend cheating on the exam, this would be a very difficult situation. So obviously there's conflicting things here. Obviously cheating in your exam is wrong, and it's going to have adverse effects on both my friend and also everyone else. But also at the same time, it is my friend. So there's a bit of conflict there. But I think when it comes down to it, I think to me integrity is really important. So it would be about doing the right thing and being honest. So what I would do is after the exam, I'd go and raise it to whichever authority or whatever the protocol was, whether that's to a teacher, whether that's to the exam supervisor or whatever, just explaining what I saw, sticking to the facts, not speculating, just sticking to the facts, saying what I knew, and they can go and investigate it from there, and I'll help them out if they need me any questions. But that's what I do. I think it's about being honest, because just think about it, it's not only like it's disadvantaging my friend as well, because if he's cheating an exam, he's not going to know what's going on here, and it's not helping himself because his grade's not going to be legitimate, and there's other consequences down the line, and it's also just not fair on everyone else. And I think fairness, honesty, transparency, it's all very important here. So that's what I do. Of course, there's conflict there, but I think that's what I do. And in particular as well, after I had raised with the exam supervisor, I'd also go mention it to my friend, because I think that's just that's the transparent thing to do. Okay, just mention him, give him a heads up. Hey, I saw this. I've mentioned it to her just to let you know she might be hearing about something about this in the next couple of days. So I just give them that heads up, because I think that's the respectful thing to do, and that's the kind of way I treat people. Be professional about it, stick to the facts, and I would just let them know, give them that heads up, because that's a professional, respectful thing to do. So that's what I do. It's a difficult situation. It's the same thing I do in the workplace. If I saw some unethical behaviour or I saw something going wrong, although it can be difficult, although it can risk conflict, I do the right thing. To me, integrity is really important. I know it is for your company as well. So that's what I'd go and do in that situation. That's what I'd say for the interview. Whether I do that in real life, what do you think? No comment from my end there. But like, that's what I'd have to say if it was an interview. Because what you're going to say, oh no, it's my friend. I'm not going to say that, but that's what I'd say if it was an interview. And I think most people would probably get the gist of that. Most people would probably end up saying something like that. But also, I think what I wanted to mention was also I tell him as well. I was using loads of keywords like be respectful, professional, integrity, and all this sort of stuff. I think how I answered that was pretty decent, if I can say so myself. If you had to follow authority, what would you do against a comeback? This guy woke up and chose violence. Jesus. If you had to follow authority, what would you do against a questionable command? Okay. Okay, so if I was in a situation where I had to follow authority and and I was given a question or command, I think what I do is, it's first things first. Integrity is really important to me, and doing the right thing. So if I received a question or command which I thought was against my own values or against the values of the company, then I wouldn't go ahead with this questionable command. Okay, because I think those values are so important. Okay, in particular integrity. Right, I wouldn't be doing something which is I personally think is questionable. So what I do is, number one, I'd like one of your leadership principles, which is to have backbone, to disagree and commit. I would respectfully challenge that decision. Okay, if it was a questionable command, I'd respectfully challenge it, and I'd give my reasons for why I thought this was questionable, we shouldn't be doing it, explaining, sticking to the facts and explaining why I thought it was against my own values, why I also thought it would be against company values, because I know integrity is so important at companies. So that's the first thing. I'd respectfully disagree with that, and maybe suddenly the leader, maybe they just hadn't thought of something, because that can be a lot in this situation. Maybe they just hadn't considered that aspect, in which case, because I've respectfully challenged this decision, it means we haven't gone ahead with this, and the leader can go and then sort of change the command or change the situation that wants to happen. Or if the leader still disagrees with me and they still want me to do it, that's where I'd potentially bring in like a third party. Maybe ask someone else, see if there's someone else, another member of the team, maybe my line manager, someone like that else, who'd be able to give like a sort of second opinion, give a third opinion, and we can just sort of discuss it. Because when we go and collaborate with more people, get their opinions, we can sort of see what's going on here. And I think the final thing I'd do is, against this sort of questionable command, is potentially raise it as something for future, because maybe there's a lesson to be learned here about maybe do we have a procedure, do we have a protocol, sort of at the company that's not right, that doesn't fit with our values, is there something that can be improved? So that's something I'd sort of log, I'd raise it as an issue so we can improve our protocols in future. But that's what I do. I think it definitely could risk causing conflict. Definitely could risk causing conflict, and it'd be a difficult conversation to have. But to me, integrity is more important. So I'd have those difficult conversations, and I would sort of challenge the command, respectfully challenge the command, bring in someone else, and also raise that issue if I needed to. An example where this has actually happened in the past was when I was on a work experience with some civil engineers, and we had to wear PPE, high-vis helmet, safety goggles, gloves, safety boots when we were going around on site. And one of the senior engineers was about to go on site without that PPE. Again, this was a difficult situation, difficult conversation I had, but I raised it with him and I mentioned you should be wearing PPE. And it turns out he'd just forgotten. He went and got the PPE and we moved on from there. That was an example where it was a difficult conversation, could have caused conflict. I was just a placement student, he was a senior engineer, and I would sort of mention that to him. But we're respectfully challenging that, we managed to keep everyone safe. So it'd be the same thing here. By respectfully challenging it and having that difficult conversation, I'd be able to make sure our company stuck to our purpose, our values, and stuck to our goals there. So that's what I'd do if I came against a questionable command whilst following authority. That's what I do. I'd say something like that. I hope that helps. And I think that's all of them. So yeah, some great questions here. Hope you guys found that valuable. If anyone has any other questions or any comments, whether this was a good video or a bad video, feel free to like, feel free to dislike. That's helpful, by the way, because it means I can see which videos are good, which videos are bad. So if ever you watch my videos and it's actually bad, please dislike it, because it is actually helpful. But yeah, hope that's helpful for you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.